Welcome to the Feist.
Everything you want to know about your favorite women's sports in one feisty hour.
With your feistiest friends,
Kelly O'Mara
and Sarah Gross.
And today, if you are watching on YouTube, you can see we are still in Hawaii. We have a big show from the last all-women's Ironman World Championship. We're going to hear from the Podium. We're going to hear from the first 80-year-old to ever finish.
Yeah,
she's like the star of the weekend.
She was definitely the star of Saturday's race. Yeah.
But first, things happened outside of Hawaii.
I know. It's
hard
hard to believe we've been so like in our little Ironman bubble for the last 10 days.
There was, though, the big Athlos all-women's track meet. They did a long jump in Times Square this year. And, I mean, you had some friends there. It looked very, very cool.
Yeah. A friend of a friend was there. And he sent us a little video of, like, long jump happening in Times Square that we posted if you check our social. That just looked so cool. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think what they've been very, very good at, obviously, is this kind of, like, spectacle, women's sports as massive spectacle.
Yeah. So interestingly, what I then saw this morning when we were in the gym was like they were showing basically a track and field competition happening in Innsbruck in Austria, like in the square. And people were, I forget exactly what, but I was like, oh, is this a thing?
They do field events. Like they'll do pole vaults sometimes. That's happened before too in like downtown squares.
Right.
Because like to try and bring the field events to the people.
Right. I feel like I just thought, I honestly, like the huge long jump track and her running down just the middle of Times Square with all the lights. And that was so cool.
I will say, so far, Athlos has existed on vibes, you know? Like,
what do you mean by that?
I mean, like everyone who goes says it's like this huge event. It's this spectacle. They have like Ciara performing. They like hand out Tiffany's crowns. They're like all like celebrities come. But then like, I'm not to say that like the performances aren't amazing, but they aren't. Like Faith Kipyegon ran the fastest mile on U.S. soil ever, which is like 4:17, and I was like, oh, that's like 10 seconds slower than the world record.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying? It's not like it's like there are all very, very good athletes, but it comes late in the year, and so you're not getting like the world.
Right. I mean, that is interesting because I think with a lot of sports, when you have a new event like that, that's trying to bring something new, we've seen this in triathlon, we've seen it in cycling, that often it takes a little while to like gain momentum, to bring the best of the world in, to have the athletes themselves choose to peak at those events.
At that event.
Yeah. So it does take a while. I feel like that's pretty normal.
Yeah. And I mean, they've been doing a good job overall, obviously, on like the athletes are they also are doing like a 10% revenue share back to the athletes who are like signed on, which I don't know that they've made revenue yet or profit, but you know,
is it profit share?
It's always unclear. Whenever sports companies say these things and like announce them, it's always like you're always like, well, what do you mean by revenue? And then it's very, very unclear. They always kind of like wave their hands.
What you mean? They're not like perfectly open about what happens in their books.
Weird. But next year they're expanding to 3 meets.
Okay,
and so that's where I think it's going to be like, okay, now can you carry the vibes to other places?
Yeah.
Can you keep it up?
And what we've seen happen is, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of athletes follow the money. So if they continue to offer big prize money, you will start to get the best in the world highlighting those 3 events for their year or coming, you know, in form enough to set a world record.
Yeah. It is funny too because like they announced the prize money and you're like, oh, 700,000 isn't like that much and then you realize, well, it's only women and it's only like 7 events, and then you're like, oh yeah, actually that's a good amount of prize money per event per winner. But it sounds smaller because it's half the number of people winning.
Yeah.
I do want to say the people who won, we did. I mean, like I just mentioned, we had Faith Kipyegon. That long jump, Tara Davis-Woodhall won it, and she did do like a world leading, I believe, long jump.
World leading just means the best this year,
right? Currently
at the time
for the year.
Okay,
yeah. And so there was, you know, there were big names, right? There was Keely Hodgkinson. Brittany Brown won the 100 and the 200. She is racing. If anybody's been following her story, because she was a medalist at the Paris Olympics, she's been racing with endometriosis.
Oh,
yeah. Which, again, like I don't know how much people know about endometriosis, but like I chatted with her kind of before the Olympics at one of their press events. It's like very, very painful.
Yes,
because it's like tissue from inside that would normally go inside your uterus grows outside the uterus. And it also often goes ignored and misdiagnosed because, you know, women, health, doctors.
Yes.
Right. And so it's very rare to have like a pro athlete
endometriosis is one of those things that like 20 years ago we thought was just regular period pain.
Right.
Like people didn't, they didn't really realize how common it was. It is a decent percentage of women who have
like 10% or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say 10. So that's, yeah. And like, I can remember back in my life having friends who would, spend 2 days with a hot water bottle in bed every month. And you're like, oh, and they just considered it their regular period plan or pains. And now I'm like, oh, actually they probably had endometriosis. So that would apply to athletes too. So I'm assuming that there's probably 10% of athletes.
Yeah. And I think it also
struggle with that.
Varies like in its severity, of course. But yeah, so she's been very public about kind of like getting that accurately diagnosed and treated and continuing to compete at that level. So it's like, it's been pretty interesting. If you don't follow her on social, she does a lot of
and having 2 days. I mean, some of us just I used to have a couple crappy training days right before my period, let alone be like in mortal pain in bed. So I feel for her.
Clearly she's doing okay performance-wise.
She's getting through.
I don't know about her life, but yeah.
She's squeaking through.
She's squeaking through.
Somehow.
Other end of the spectrum, we had the Chicago running-wise. We had the Chicago Marathon this weekend too, which there was a lot of concern about going into because it's like the next crazy raids targeted city in the US, and they've been doing just insane, probably not legal roundups, throwing people in vans. I don't want to call them arrests because arrest comes with like legal protections. And so there was a lot of concern about how can you be like doing that and then have a 50,000 person event with international people.
Were people talking about that?
Oh, people were very concerned. I think a lot of because also a lot of the runners from the area who are Hispanic or Latino or Black were worried just about getting profiled, about getting picked up, about getting stopped. And then it's also, people coming from other countries. Like, you're just kind of like, what am I supposed to do? So there's a lot of like, do I need to run with my passport? Like, what is happening?
Oh my goodness.
And I think it was just like a lot of fear. I have not heard that there were raids specifically there, but there were like 2 weeks ago just like down the beach.
Yeah, I understand those fears because I saw some of those clips on Instagram too of some of the crap that was happening.
Yeah, I heard from my cousin. It's been not good, but the marathon went off. Hawi Fesa, I never know if you say Havi or Hawi.
I don't know.
Fesa won in 2:14.
Where's she from?
Ethiopia.
Okay.
I know we're in Hawaii, and here it would be Havi.
Yeah.
So I'm like, but I don't know.
I thought that it was going to give me a clue once I knew where she was from, but I don't know how the Ethiopians pronounce W, so I can't help.
She won in 2:14:56, which is pretty fast. And I gather it was like a slightly hot day, but Chicago's a fast course. It's also the one.
That's fast.
I saw the World Marathon Majors because Chicago's a major say like it was the 6th fastest time in history. But then they're still counting the time the woman ran that has then been dope tested. And I don't think that counts anymore.
No, I don't think it should.
No,
for sure.
So then it would be the 5th fastest time.
Yeah,
not the 6th fast. You got to like cross that one off.
Cross it out. Yeah, everybody.
And the UCI Gravel World Championships were this weekend, which Lorena Webbs outsprinted Marianne Voss. The Gravel Worlds is weird because there's another race called Gravel Worlds, which is not the World Championship.
I was very confused by this bullet point on our run list. I was like, because we have a Feist has a tight connection to the
gravel world,
to the gravel world in general, right?
Right. Oh, you mean the industry and sport?
Yes. Yeah. So we have a gravel podcast called Girls Gone Gravel. So like we very much cover the women's side of that sport. And I was like, I feel certain that Gravel World has already.
No. That was a different event.
What's the story?
That's just like held in Nebraska. That's just named itself Gravel Worlds.
Oh, that's like the name of I love this. Can we have host an event?
So I believe our colleague went to Gravel Worlds, just the one.
Yes.
And this is actually like the UCI took over the World Championship for gravel 2-3 years ago.
So this is the Gravel World Championships.
This is a Gravel World Championship.
Not Gravel Worlds.
Run by the UCI. And then the joke is always that the UCI, like here in the US, which is like, I don't want to say like home of gravel cycling, but obviously we have a lot of the bigger gravel races.
Yeah.
Gravel means like something very specific. It's like 100-mile, 200-mile mixed terrain out in an adventure. And then the UCI they started a World Series and points and World Championship. Their races are much more like not. They're like very non-technical, as what people say.
Right.
Very like, very like
the UCI races.
The UCI races
are closer to a
regular road race,
right?
With some dirt,
right?
So that's been like a big divide in the gravel. World.
Well, one of the big things that stands out for me is that, you know, compared to even 3-4 years ago, you're getting names
Lorena
like,
Webbs and
Marianne Voss out there
for
winning.
Sure.
Whereas gravel prior to that was kind of super niche. The big names were still in road cycling, and now it's come all the way to like bring in some of those big names.
I will say there's also this debate going on at the UCI, in the UCI gravel World Series races and stuff. There's a debate going on about whether the women need their own start, because like gravel always was kind of this mass participation.
Is it a debate?
Well, there are some people.
They just need their own start?
They need their own start. There are people who think that's not true. And because in most gravel races here in the US, they've started giving the pro women, elite women, like their own start. And it's obviously it's complicated because of timing and mass starts and how long you have.
Yeah.
But the UCI, they often haven't been giving them, or they only start them, like 30 seconds ago, like not enough apart that then they're getting swept up and there's crashes and it's like a whole mess.
Yeah.
And a woman that we have worked with before and who shared this thing, she asked the UCI gravel kind of head, and he was like, "Oh, women are always complaining." And he was like, because the notion is that the problem when there's like men mixed in is that it changes who wins.
Yes.
Right. And he was like, "Oh, well, if you can stick with the men and you win, then you're still, then you were the best rider for the day."
Yeah.
I've been racing for years. This is how this goes.
If you had, so here's the counter example would be if you had like some kind of alien creature that was really good at cycling that came in and then lined up. There was like the alien creatures, the men and the women.
Okay.
Right. And then the alien creatures started to like pull the men.
Right.
Like, so they were faster cyclists, but some of the men can maybe get in their draft and it completely changes the race.
Sure.
Then do you think like the UCI would 100% be like the alien creatures, the men and the women need their own races? Like, it's just like, if you think about things differently.
Sure.
Versus how they've always been.
Sure. Yeah. So that is so the UCI gravel, I mean, they gave them different races for the World Championship here, but in the series that they've started, that's debate's not the right word. What's the word? That's a regurgitated argument that's getting old.
Right.
Yeah, that we keep hearing.
Yeah.
So anyway, the other World Championship happening right now, weightlifting.
Olivia Reeves, ever since we were at the Olympic Games last year, and we were sat right in the front row when Olivia Reeves had a world record. Yeah. I've been an Olivia Reeves super fan.
Well, I had heard that this other weightlifter from North Korea had broken her world records, and then I was like, oh man, that's unfortunate for her. I thought she was in like pretty good shape. She had just like set some. Apparently, they changed the weight classes.
Okay,
so that's why I was like, okay,
is this a common thing?
Well, there's like, so I gather that they do reset the weight classes every now and then.
Yeah.
And there's and it does like reset all the world records then.
Yeah.
Which is like a little crazy. But the reason they did, so they went from 10 down to 8 in both men's and women's. Okay. And that is partially to like align with the IOC and create some, weightlifting had like the fewest number of athletes at this last Olympics that it's had. So they're trying to like innovate and streamline
when you say
and make it more interesting.
10 versus 8, like there's 8 kilos between.
No. I'm saying there were 10 weight classes, and now there are only 8 weight classes.
8. So actually, the bands are bigger.
The bands are bigger.
Okay.
So they're trying to simplify and streamline because obviously when it gets like too many categories, it gets hard to follow, and it's like spectator wise, athlete wise.
Yeah.
And so Olivia Reeves actually went like up, like her old weight class is lower than the weight class she's competing in now, so she must have been kind of like between the line on these new ones. So she went up a weight class, and set new world records in that weight class because I don't know, new world records all the time now. But I had to do the math. So she snatched 122 kilograms, which is 269 pounds. And she clean and jerked 154 kilograms, which is 339 pounds.
The insanity.
Like, I don't know. I was like lifting 40 pounds this morning, and I think I threw my back
40-pound dumbbell. Kettlebell.
Yeah.
I honestly like to. It would be a really good day if I deadlifted her snatch weight.
Like that's true.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Not that it's just like I compare it only because like, like just feeling how heavy that barbell is.
Right. No, I would throw my back out if I tried to deadlift half that. And deadlift's much easier, obviously, for people who don't. You just have to pick it up off the ground. Yeah.
I feel like it would probably be, it's probably healthy in some ways to change the categories every once in a while, because invariably you end up with folks who don't like quite fit, and then they're trying to constantly lean down before a competition to get to the weight class below, because that typically in weight band sports, that's typically how it goes, right? So if you like reset them, you give a chance for a different set of athletes to perform in a different way. I don't know. I'm just
I mean, it's also a whole like how the IOC, the Olympic Committee, they're always trying to like streamline rules, like not like have fewer, but like make things easier to follow, attract the youth. And I think there was this issue with like weightlifting had kind of gotten to the point where like there just weren't that many athletes at the Olympics. There were too many categories. It wasn't attracting. So they're snazzing things up.
Snazzing. The Olympics, they're out there snazzing. Let's hope it works.
So, and the other thing this past weekend, and you guys had a watch party for the WNBA finals.
We did. So back in Victoria, of course, I'm in Hawaii, so I wasn't able to go, but we held Feisty and our partner Rifflandia held a fundraiser and watch party for the WNBA Game 4. I was really hoping they were going to make it to Game 6 so that I could be back home.
And they didn't even make it to Game 5.
At one of our watch parties, but no, they didn't make it to Game 5, and the Aces swept it.
They did sweep it, which is like a little crazy if you like. So like 2 or 3 years ago, they were super dominant, right? They had won 2 titles, and they had like all the big names. It was just like they were getting in trouble for like violating the salary cap and all this stuff. Yeah. So they were like this, like they were the Yankees of the WNBA. And then they just like lost it, and Kelsey Plum left, and like it just seemed like it was starting to fall apart. Ajay Wilson is obviously very, very good, but she was injured. And then I feel like they just came in and they were like, screw it.
And they just, I did not expect a sweep.
No.
Yeah, they really smashed it and did a good job. But the watch party
was fun.
We raised over $2,000 for an Indigenous girls basketball group. Oh. Yeah, so they were excited. It was really fun watching the girls like get excited about the money that was raised, and so good things happened. We just didn't get to watch 6 or 7 games of basketball.
That's the only downside. I also saw the mayor, so they were playing Phoenix Mercury, and the mayor of Phoenix sent like a note out to like kind of like a memo being like, because the game was early on the West Coast, because it was for East that TV East Coast bias, and so it was early, and she was like, let people leave early from work so they can go to the game, which is cute. The big news though, I feel like I almost didn't even know we were in Game 4 because all the news has been about collective bargaining. All the news has been about like, are they going to reach an agreement by the October 31st deadline? Are they going to go on strike? Like that's been the main story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what happens here. I was reading some of the details, but it's just
I think they're going to sign. I mean, I think they're going to sign a like extension. Just for 60 days or 90 days or whatever, while they obviously the sticking points are kind of like salary caps, maximum what's the word I'm looking for? Like there are right now like maxes you can pay rookies, pay veteran players, and they're pretty fucking low.
They're pretty low. But I think even the current state of negotiations, the increase is going to be significant. Like once we finalize it, it's it's looking at like a 3 or 4x already.
Oh yeah, I think I think the question becomes when something has been so low, and this is kind of like what happened with the Cricket World Cup, right? Like it sounds crazy because they upped the prize purse like 4 times, and we could have done incremental, but it was so artificially low. Yeah, like do you really need to do these incremental steps, or could we just fucking have parity, right? Yeah. And so I think that's like the problem right now with the WNBA is that the salary has been so low that yes, they are going to increase them, but what the league is proposing is still significantly lower than what the players are like. Look at the math. Right. Like valuations have gone up. Like both the teams in the finals, their valuations went up $100 million in last year. Like if the players agree to something that seems like a little low to them, but is like, better than we were doing before, and then valuations continue, they're going to be screwed in 4 years where they're still like locked into this. Yeah. So I think that's where they're at. It's like the
old question of like, do we accept? I mean, I've been in negotiations like this before, right? Like, do we accept a mid step on the way to a bigger step? because that's what we can get right now, or do you like keep pushing to try to get a bigger step towards parity or more pay or whatever?
And I think so we'll talk now about, we are in Kona for the Ironman, last all women's Ironman World Championship, and this is what made me think of this, because so it is the last all women's one. We're going back to a system where the women are kind of like crammed in the men's race, and the women are going to be like 25% of the field next year. And I was thinking and I was thinking about this because somebody this week was like, oh, well, the people who want 50-50, like 50% women, 50% men, they're never going to be happy. And I was like, well, have you tried giving us 50-50? Like,
I feel like we've been pretty cler about what would make us happy.
They're like, well, we tried not giving them equality, and then we tried it again, and they're still not happy.
We tried giving them less, and that didn't work.
So they're never going to be happy.
Such a funny comment.
But yeah, it feels kind of like this, right? Like we
does.
tried not paying them enough, and then we tried not paying them.
We tried paying them more, but still way less.
And they're still not happy. And you're like, well, so
yeah.
I feel like, so if you haven't, if you are not in the weeds on triathlon, we had been doing a daily podcast every day here from Kona. How we kind of got to this last all women's one is that it used to, historically, it's always been this like 1 day race with men and women together. That's like kind of the history of the Kona race in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. It's like the one you've probably seen on NBC or on TV. It's famous. And then over the years, they've done, like when you raced it as a pro, they used to have lots of women.
Oh yeah, there used to be a day when we'd have 80 women.
Right.
Like when I first, like in the pro ranks,
in the pro field, yeah.
Where you could, I saw lots of changes of how we qualified.
Right.
But it went from like 80 to like around about 40. And then I don't know. And the way you it's boring details.
It's boring
the way
details.
We qualified as pros got messy.
But at some point, basically, in all these change, like it used to kind of be like, if you wanted to sign up, you could just sign up because like nobody wanted to do it. And then it was like, well, you have to have done a race before, and then you could do it. And then, and
did
eventually,
you just make it, sorry, not in my day.
Not in your day. No, I'm saying historically,
back in the day,
yeah. Because people now are like, well, anyway. It's gone through iterations, and we got to this point where like too many people wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. So then they had to develop a system of qualifying. Right. And the system they developed historically had been this system where they were going to like hand out spots based on participation rates. Yes. And they were like, well, less women participate in the world, so they get less spots at the World Championship.
Yes. And that's kind of what we had.
That's kind of what we had for a while. Yeah. And then in recent years, they went to this, like the women got their own day and the men got their own day. And then that was like a lot of people here on the island. So then they split it up, and one race was here in Kona and one race was in Nice, France. Mm-hmm. And they switched, and that was supposed to go through next year, but they like broke the contract. And now we're going back to the system where we're going to put all the men and women together on the 1 day, and we're going back. And it's not exactly a qualifying system based on participation. It's like an algorithm based qualification system.
Yeah. Based on performance in your age group. Basically.
According to Ironman's, what's the word I'm looking for? Equation. Yes.
Yeah, we had that conversation the other day. Don't call an equation an algorithm.
It's not really an algorithm. It's like addition and division, but their equation. And the thing is that they say it'll result in about, because the World Championships has the pro field, which you were talking about and which we're going to talk a lot about, but it also has all of these amateur athletes. And so they crown the best 20 to 25-year-old and the best 70 to 74-year-old and the best, those are actually very heavily coveted titles. Amateur athletes work very, very hard for those.
Yes, a lot of them are full-time athletes, or like really, it's a huge focus of their life.
It's a huge focus of their life. Yeah. And so it's a big deal. And those are the athletes we're talking about in terms of this whole algorithmic equation qualifying system.
I think when we're talking about Kona and like Ironman World Championships, we have to remember this is the place where like these are the grounds where a lot of people put their athletic aspirations, their hopes and their dreams, and that's the like lore of Kona. Like people see it on TV.
Well, they don't see it on TV anymore, which is going to be a problem.
They grew up seeing it on TV, and then they think one day I want to do that, right. And then it often takes a really long time to qualify because you have to be one of the best in the world in your age category, mm-hmm. And so it's just this. There's a huge amount of lore, and there's a lot of people here who have put like all of their eggs, like their life goals into this basket. Yes. So that's why you end up with a lot of people who are heavily invested, who come into the sport. They stay for life. Mm-hmm. They, even after they stop racing, they stay in the industry. It's a community where people are making their dreams come true. And that's like the environment in which we have this conversation. Yeah.
And so within that context, people had big feelings about the fact that some people would race, like men would race in Nice, women would race here, and then we would switch. But it did have the benefit of giving the women full media coverage, giving the women a clean race, because, and everyone always says, well, marathons, the men and women race together. Marathons don't have drafting like on the bike. Drafting is a big issue on the bike.
Yes. Yeah. And on the swim. And like the other thing that a lot of big city marathons have is the women starting
earlier,
like an hour before, or starting in a completely different place and then merging to the same course
because
later.
Even in running, they realized that in order to have a fair race for the professionals who are competing for a world championship title and millions of dollars, they need a clean, fair race.
They found a way to have a very clean and fair race, which is ultimately a big part of the problem out here.
It's a big challenge here because you can't do that with the way, like, they swim and then they bike and then they run. You can't give them enough time to then also have all of like 2,008 amateur athletes go after them and be done by 1 a.m. And like, and so, I mean, they have said they figured it out. They haven't figured it out because like everyone spent years trying to figure it's very hard to figure out the timing of that. So the benefit of the all women's has been they get all the media coverage for the whole day. They get this clean, fair race. Like there are no men accidentally mixing in with them.
Yes.
I'm not that the men are trying. I'm not saying they're being dicks. I'm just saying it happens.
It's just you have thousands of people out riding in the same 180 kilometers. Yeah.
And it's also, I think, a benefit that we've seen in the last 3 years with the All Women's Day is, I'm trying to think of the nice way to say this. They also are able to like feel all their feelings and like say what they want to say. And the press conference is like fully them. There is a sense I have seen over and over when there are men also on the stage, or, you know, that first year when people were very nervous about it, that a lot of the women do the thing women do. And they are like nervous about saying something that's going to upset other people.
Right.
It's particularly upset the men in charge.
And upset the leadership of Ironman.
Yeah, and sponsors and industry and media, all of whom are largely male.
Yeah.
Like, yes, this race has a female race director, but like largely in the industry and sponsors, and it's men.
Yeah.
And so when they say we actually kind of like not having the men here, they don't want that to like upset people.
They can't really say that right now.
They can't say that right now.
Feathers.
So they're saying it behind closed doors. They're saying it to us. They're like, what was our joke? They're whispering it quietly.
Yes. Yeah. We heard that a lot this week, especially from the amateur athletes who came over to our booth that we had set up. But I think, and the other thing that you can never get back if you go back to men and women on the same place on the same day is a woman crossing the line first.
Right.
And having their own, that the way that sport is art. Right. Like it's like that way of self-expression. So if these pro athletes are out there, this is their way of self-expression. If they have the entire stage and one of them is going to come over the line first, you are going to have a different race than if you have the men and women on the same course.
And it was a very dramatic race yesterday, which is also like, you're like, and we won't be able to see it next year because it'll be totally different. But it was very, very dramatic. It was, so first we had, a defending world champion drop out on the bike, throwing up. And then we had, the defending world champion here, Lucy Charles Barkley, and Taylor Knibb, who is like our 3-time half Ironman world champion, who had like she wanted to win this race. They just went off. They were like 14 minutes up on the whole rest of the group that had last year's world champion and one of the other favorites. And 14 minutes is a lot. Like not all these women can run very fast. You don't run 14 minutes faster than each other at the top level.
Right. 14 minutes is an insane gap to come off the bike.
So it was like, well, they've won. Like, I guess they have it. And then so Lucy and Taylor are then running off the front. Like Lucy catches Taylor, then Lucy starts to fall apart. Taylor re-catches her. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, Lucy's wobbling through aid stations. She has that look of like, she doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know what's happening. Yeah. It's like the stumbly drunk. The heat is frying your brain.
Yes. This is something that if no one has seen Ironman before, it used to happen in the 80s and 90s when we knew less about sports nutrition. So folks would like on the marathon just collapse a mile before the finish. We saw champions leading the race and that would happen. It didn't happen that much, but it happened more. Notable, you could look this up on YouTube and find there was one year in the 80s where two women, it was like the crawl off.
They were crawling down the finish line. Yeah.
Like both collapsed in the finishing chute and crawled to the finishing line together, which is crazy. And then, or you had Paula Newby-Fraser, who won eight times here, who was basically a champion, the person to beat for so many years. And she said she forgot to take, or decided not to take, her banana out of T2, because back then we ate real fruit during the race, and then collapsed with like very close to Alihi too. So like with less than a mile to go. So that was the kind of thing. We haven't seen that for years and years. We haven't seen it for years. And then we have two champions.
And then well then Lucy. So then all of a sudden Lucy is like wobbling around, but she's still. And literally, if you watch, her husband was out there, had to like stop his bike in front of her and be like, "Stop! Right. You need to stop." And she was. So they pulled her off the course, and then Taylor's leading, and we were down to, as you like, the last mile and a half. And then all of a sudden, Taylor's wobbling.
She wobbled away. You see, if you've ever seen someone bonk.
And then she kind of tipped over and sat down. Yeah. And she was done with a mile and a half to go. Yeah. And it's just, and so all of a sudden, Solveig, I actually like was trying to pronounce that with a good accent. Solveig. Love Seth from Norway. I mean, she had this like very steady, solid race all day, had like ridden away from the group, and then just was running her own race. And all of a sudden she's like, I'm in first with like a mile and a half to go.
So she's a rookie here. She's done 2 Ironmans before. They were both very fast. She ran very fast marathon times for both of them. She's an Olympian. So he was someone people were watching, but often people don't win on their first time here. And just that story of how she kind of accidentally dropped everyone on the bike. She looked back at one point and was like, oh, they're not here anymore. She's just super strong, steady athlete, just was coming through. And then in the final miles of the marathon, 2 people just dropped in front of her, and she found herself in first place, which is wild.
And we're going to hear from her in a second. I was laughing about it. She was like, well, third's very good for your first time. Third's great. And then people are like, you're in second now. And she's like, wow, second's amazing. Second's good. Like, you know what? You're like, don't really want to try and bridge a 4-minute gap. And you're like, I'm just going to, second's great. And then all of a sudden you're in first, and you have maybe 7 minutes to process that before you're crossing the finish line. Yeah.
Exactly. So we did, after the race, Kelly and I were hanging out by the hotel pool, as you do. And we found Solveig there coming off her win, and we were able to talk to her.
I'll do this fast, all right? Yep. All right, that was crazy. At what point were you like, oh shit, I'm going to win this?
When I was at the finish line. Maybe a couple meters before that. But it was real, crazy. You said it. It was it was really mixed feelings when I saw Taylor sitting beside the road there. It was only 2Ks before the finish, and I was really happy with second as well, and really obviously heartbreaking for her, and really surreal feeling, because it was like 2 feeling sorry for her, but also like I'm in the lead now. That was crazy. And then I was just thinking, okay, just control yourself and get yourself to that finish line. Like don't be the next one. So I was really happy the finish line where it was, because if it had been a couple Ks longer, then Kat definitely would have caught up with me.
So in the midst of all of that craziness that was happening, the other thing that was happening was Kat Matthews, who was in second, was running her down. Like, you and I were at the finish line, and I'm like, she's closing. She was closing in those last 5K. And given how crazy everything was, you were like, I mean, she could catch her. I don't know. Yeah. Because she closed. She was 8 minutes down on Solveig. And then she was like 4 minutes down for a long time. And then all of a sudden it started to drop in the last 5K.
Yeah.
And she ended up 35 seconds behind
35 seconds down. She set a run course record.
2:47.
2:47. And you have to imagine, like, running a 2:47 marathon's impressive unto itself, right? And then, like, she's obviously been swimming and biking all day ahead of it. And it was blistering hot here, even for Hawaii.
Right. There's a reason people were dropping like flies and that everyone else ran slow. Like, Kat is a very, very good runner, but the other top podium runners are all usually comparable runners. Yeah. And they all ran like 7 or 8 minutes slower than her.
Yeah. So she saw, or she heard, I guess she wouldn't have seen it. She heard what was happening in front of her. She decided to go for it. All guts.
I mean, it's impressive. It is impressive to keep your foot on the gas that whole time when you are 14 minutes down. Yeah. Coming off the bike. And she almost did it.
Yeah. So we heard from her also at the press conference. Mm-hmm. So let's run that clip.
How quickly you were gaining on Solveig, and that you could potentially overtake her if you hadn't run out of road, literally?
You're loosely aware, but I think it was 4 or 5 minutes for the whole race. That's what it felt like. Or it was 8, and then it was 4, and then it stayed at 4 for a while. In the energy lab, Lucy, Taylor, and Solveig all looked fantastic. So I was like, oh well, like I said, just in your own game, you're on pace. Everything's going fine. You can't worry about anyone else. But it was maybe at sort of 6 or 7k, Mark was like, you're going to catch, you're going to finish about 90 seconds behind Solveig. And he was like, but you could try a bit harder. and so I really lent in to my sort of like the muscular fatigue at that point, and I really gave it everything. So I knew that my closing kilometres were very fast. I love running downhill. It just makes it up. Well, I didn't know that, but I assumed Solveig wasn't running as fast, so I guess I didn't know I was that close though.
I don't think Kat wasn't the only one who didn't know standing at the finish line. Like the Ironman staff wasn't prepared. Like we were kind of up in the bleachers, and I'm like, she's coming, and they're like trying to clear the line all of a sudden. They're like, oh shit, she's here.
Yeah. I mean, it was a chaotic finish line area because when we, behind the scenes, like we were in the media room, right, watching the race on the screen. We thought for sure Taylor was going to win. Right. We went out in the time that we went outside, crossed over a crosswalk or whatever, came into the finishing area to get our photos and videos from the finishing area. Taylor had wobbled and collapsed, and there was a new leader, and we were looking up at the big screen. Like I was literally holding my face.
Oh, the whole finish line area was like yelling in unison, like, no.
Yeah. Like literally Ironman had their press release set with Taylor as the winner and had to change it, and then in addition to that, then you had like Solveig, this new champion, coming through, and then more chaos.
And then they were like cutting to Kat, and I'm like, wait, she's passing the same intersection. Like she's right there.
I caught up so quickly that everybody was unprepared for her to come through the finish. So it was wild.
It was a lot. So knowing Kat, kind of as she's coming through the ranks, she is very, very, very good. And I know obviously all these athletes are good at finding that line and riding it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they go past it, as we saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. She is very good at riding it. And she doesn't, she like definitely, they all like, they know their heart rate, they know their pace, but they also know like when to not pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. And she actually ran exactly even splits yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And this is the other thing that's crazy about Kat. And this is where like some of it has to be talent. The longest run she did before Kona was 2 hours.
Yeah.
She doesn't do huge mileage. Mm-hmm. She doesn't do like super long runs. And she did the same thing kind of when she broke this like record for the fastest, like the sub 8. She just like knows what she can do and holds it. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. That takes an insane amount of kind of like mental.
Yeah. Self-knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was very impressive. And then in third, so Kat also left T2 with Laura Philipp, who is our defending champion. Laura Philipp also set the fastest ever Ironman time earlier this year. And she did that with her and Kat kind of running side by side in a race earlier this year.
Right.
And so they left T2 together side by side again. And Kat later, like they maybe were running too fast. And so ultimately like Laura couldn't hold on to it. And I think like Laura kind of told us like she just didn't feel great all day. It was like a rough.
And Laura is one of the best in the world. She's one of the best runners as well. Right. And she for context, she's been 4th here in Kona twice. She's been 3rd. So we know she can do Kona as a race. She won in Nice, right? So she's performing on multiple levels. And so, she's not someone to bet against. And here she is. Again, she was running in 5th and then found out she was 4th.
She was funny. She's like, but I haven't passed anyone.
Yeah. So we talked to Laura after as well.
All right, I know we just talked a ton about how crazy the race was, but out there, how much did you know? When do you know it? Do you believe it?
So honestly, I had a few supporters out on course that gave me splits, but when I saw for the first time that the bike gap is just getting bigger and bigger, it was kind of hard to believe because I was trying my best and I didn't felt like I was riding super slow. So that was definitely upsetting. You're asking yourself what is going on? But I guess you can't do more than what you can. So I just try to ride hard and focus on myself. And then on the run, obviously I was hoping to have good run legs. So because I think what the past has shown that even if gaps appear super big, so much can happen. And I think today's race was the best testament for that. Yeah, so much can happen during the run. So I was still believing, and the start with Kat was good, but then I kind of felt that I can't continue with that pace, and that it's the best if I focus on myself and just give it my best effort. And then I got those information from my supporters like Lucy dropped out, Taylor dropped out, and I couldn't believe it, like both of them were leading the race at certain points, so it definitely seemed crazy. I have never experienced something like this before, but it didn't really change my race plan. I just tried to set one foot in front of each other. So yeah.
On a hot day like that, are you going by heart rate, or are you going by feel, or what are you using?
Just by feel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But doesn't it feel terrible?
Yeah, it does.
So how do you know, okay, I'm fine, this is an okay terrible?
I think you ask yourself the question, can I go any harder? And then if the answer is no, you just continue like you did. Well, I had a game plan, and the pace was certainly different because I do believe that I can run faster. But I think it's so much that has an impact on how fast you can run at the end. Fueling, cooling, I don't know, form of the day.
Do you think they just overbiked? Is that did you guys actually bike it correctly?
Well, the thing is, I haven't looked at my data yet, but looking at the bike split, I would say I didn't bike well, But then you don't know. It's just conditions and whatever. I have no idea. Maybe I put the wrong tire pressure in my tires. I don't know.
I was laughing when Kat was running. I was like, Laura told me it was going to be a sprint on Elite between two athletes. We just didn't know which two. And you were very close to being right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know, right?
So I should predict more races, I guess.
Earlier in the week when I talked to Laura, and I love talking to Laura because she always answers questions, but earlier in the week, she was like, it's going to come down to that last mile. It could be, we're going to see one of the closest finishes ever. And I was kind of like, sure, Laura. Okay. And then I almost asked her between which two athletes.
Right.
But I think it was a toss up all week. No one knew who of the six it would come down to.
I also thought that was super relatable what she said about her tire pressure. Oh, sure. When you're, if you're not holding the watts that have been in this situation, right? You're not holding the watts you expect to, you can't quite push as much as you want to on the bike. You're you start to think, what's wrong? Are my brakes rubbing?
Right.
Are my tires pumped up enough?
Maybe I have a flat. I should stop and check.
Exactly.
So it was, Laura and Kat were in this big group that had 10 or 12 athletes. Also Lisa Perder, who was in 5th, Hannah Berry, who we're going to hear from in a second, who was in 4th. And we heard from some of them later, kind of offline, that the group maybe was looking too much at each other and accidentally let Taylor and Lucy get 14 minutes off the road. Because there's a thing when you're out there, there's a lot of weird dynamics. Yeah. You're kind of well, I'm next to the person I wanted to beat, so I must be doing okay. And you don't totally always pay attention, even though people are giving you splits. You get wrapped up in your own thing.
And just thinking about it now, this has only just occurred to me that both Kat and Laura afterwards said that they weren't feeling good on the bike.
Right.
And those are the two people in that group that everybody would have been looking to for a pace. So they were probably feeling like crap. You know, Solveig said she had this experience of accidentally kind of leaving them and going off the front and ultimately ending up winning. But that's probably what happened. Right. Is they probably had these two big champions in the mix who were not feeling that great.
Well, if Kat and Laura think this is a good pace, I guess it's a good pace.
And then suddenly it's oops, we let them get 14 minutes in front of us.
It did crack me up though, because when someone gets 14 minutes, I do feel your reaction should be, well, either they're going to win or it's going to end badly.
Yeah.
And one of the people in that group was Hannah Berry, who I talked to earlier this year. And she kind of just quietly did her own. I mean, she obviously is much more complicated over an 8-hour day, but she did kind of quietly do her own race. And I think she sort of flew under the radar. Out on course, I kept seeing her and being Hannah's doing great.
Yeah.
and then she comes to the finish line.
She's been in the sport for a long time. She's been a great champion in the sport, and it's great to see her come here and come forth too.
All right. I mean, we spent the whole press conference talking about how crazy that race was, but I'm going to ask again. How crazy was it to be in Did you know how crazy it was?
I mean, it was crazy to be hearing what was happening out on course a bit. I could feel that the conditions were really brutal. It was just so humid out there. So I don't know, possibly that played a part in just like how the race played out with all the people having to DNF. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of unbelievable, to be fair, hearing that, I was like in 5th and then in 4th. But it was a great day.
Somebody asked this and I was like, I don't know. They were like, when on a day when everyone's DNFing, not everybody, but everybody looks brutal, times are slow. Yeah. Did you do something different? Like how were you able to keep going? Did you like use cooling strategies? Did you go slower? Like what was the difference?
I mean, it actually wasn't really slow. It felt really slow on the bike. It was just like we never got a tailwind. I mean, I think, in this sport, possibly managing myself is maybe my greatest asset. So sometimes the more brutal the conditions are, the better for me. Like I'm not like the best swimmer, the best biker, or the best runner, but I generally am really well at managing myself like through hot conditions, especially. So when I looked at the forecast before the race this morning and I could see it was going to be a really humid one, and I could see that the wind had slightly changed, I was like, okay, it's going to be a hard day, but maybe it'll be good for me. And obviously it turned out to be.
The pros are always saying, like, it always sounds like you guys have all positive mental talk in your head, like, oh, I just got to focus. How true is that? Are you actually just focusing on yourself? I was, you are focusing on yourself, but you have to obviously be aware of what is happening in the race, because you do need to make the most of opportunities. If someone goes, can you go with them? So there was definitely paying attention to what was happening around me a lot. In terms of the positive talk, you kind of sometimes have to force those thoughts into your head, because honestly, I was retiring out there a few times today. You just basically force those thoughts in. Okay, I asked Hannah about the positive talk because all the pros, you get different things they tell you on stage versus like having Mai Tais at the pool. Mm-hmm. But all of them are like, oh, I knew I had to do my own race. I wasn't worried about Kat or Lucy and Taylor. I wasn't worried about them off the road. I knew I just had to like stay within myself. And you're like, did you really think that?
Right.
You were probably like, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
I'm the slowest person who's ever done this.
Yeah.
I should get a new job. Like that, like you definitely thought that too.
Yeah. And I think that was super relatable also, how she retired multiple times during the race. Like that's the kind of thing, I mean, I'm sure you have too. Like when you're out there, even when you're racing pro, like I used to joke with my peers who finished around me, like how many times did you retire in your head while you were out there?
Mine was, you're a smart person. You could do something else. You could probably make a lot more money.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life?
Amazing. And Hannah, we know that's true for Hannah too.
Oh yeah, she's like a doctor or whatever. Yeah. So it was funny because they all kind of said that. And obviously it worked out for them because everybody ran their own race and didn't get too caught up. Well, maybe they got a little caught up, but and ultimately it worked out for them because the people who had gone off the front, gone too hard, taken that risk, because sometimes you have to take the risk to win. Mm-hmm. It didn't pay off yesterday, right? Both Lucy and Taylor ended up imploding. And maybe they did that to each other because they were both like pushing each other and pushing each other and pushing each other.
Yes.
And I feel like, I mean, we're going to hear from Taylor because we talked to her the next day, but I do feel like there's this, you have to take the risk to win sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yes. It often does.
Sometimes
it just doesn't. So yeah, we did hear that was sort of the talk of the town, right? Was the morning after the race, is Taylor okay? Is Lucy okay? Is Chelsea okay?
And they're all okay. In that they are alive, they are healthy, they got medical attention. We've talked to all their families. What I said to Taylor, and I think we're going to hear this, on the panel, she came to an event of ours the next day on a panel, and I was like, let's start with, are you recovered? And she was like, well, I don't think you recover from that quickly, which is fair, right? So I think there's are they okay is also like, now that you have to like really avoid getting heat stroke for a while. Yeah. You have to like really take care of yourself.
And she told us, which clearly had come from her medical advisors, that it was probably going to take her 6 months to fully recover from the heat stroke / bonking / whatever was happening.
Yeah, I think when you reach once you reach a point where your core temperature is very, very high, which can come from just like you went too hard, can come from like cooling strategies. It can come from like nutrition, but I think yesterday it came from they went too hard. Once your core temperature, there's literally nothing to do. Like, people are like, there's not anything you can do. Once your core temperature hits a point, you just have to get it down. You just have to slow down. You have to get an ice bath. Like, and so I think were both like that. Those were heat strokey stuff. Like they were both at a point where like, there's nothing to do other than get your core temperature down. Yeah. Cause you start to cook from the inside and it can really fuck you up.
Yeah, it can. So we were very lucky to hear from Taylor the next day on our panel that was co-hosted with Hoka. So let's hear from Taylor.
I was just trying to run my race and run my pace, and I was very shocked to come up on Lucy again because I figured like once she passed me on Polani, like, well, there she goes, like title number 2, congrats. Dude, I was like, what? But then she wasn't like losing time, and I was like, ooh, she's hurting. Like that was, you could just see that. And then running next to her, I thought it was around 21 or 22K. That's half marathon for Americans. And I thought it was kind of ironic because, you know, we had the same coach, but we do nothing together, and we do all different workouts. And so I thought it was kind of ironic how, like, somehow he got us to, like, the same place at the same time. Now, he had a rough day yesterday. I think he may have had the worst day. Oh, yeah. At a certain point, you just stop looking at your watch, and it's just like, you gotta race it. And I thought, like, and that's probably the danger, like, and that's where I really respect Lucy, because like she's a racer, and I love to race too. And that's when you put two of them together, might not be great. Sometimes there'll be good times, sometimes it'll be like yesterday, but I wouldn't change a thing.
So I've talked to Taylor a lot, and part of me later after would want to be like, I'm sure you would have changed some things, but I understand her point that knowing what you know in the moment, you're like, Solveig is closing on me. I have to not stop walking. If I walk, I'm not going to get started again. I need to hold on, right? You make your choice in the moment, knowing what you know. Yeah. And having the information you have later, you might have made a different choice. Yeah. But you didn't have that information at the time. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, what was remarkable about both Taylor and Lucy was that they would sort of come into an aid station, stumble around, try to get a bunch of ice, right? But then in between, when they started running again, they just looked very normal. Like they were running fast and fluid, you know, and then they'd hit the next stage of stumbling around and trying to get ice.
There were a couple of, the DNF rate in the pro field was pretty high. And there were a couple other pros I talked to that had similar experience. They were like, well, when I was running okay for like 5 or 10 minutes, but then I would suddenly like be wobbling and stumbling and ice again. And I think, well, where I'm going with this is the age groupers actually had a pretty high finish rate, even though they also had very tough, but every single person I talked about, it was very humid, very hot. A lot of them also swallowed a lot of seawater because it was rocky out there, and that then affects your nutrition, affects your stomach. I think the age groupers who got to that point of like the heat strokey, like they slowed down, and the pros just tried to run through it. Harder. Yeah. They're like, well, I should get done faster. Yeah. So I think that's sort of like, obviously that's a mental difference out there, but.
And when we're talking about risk, but like for Laura and Lucy, both, like they each want to be world champion.
Oh, Taylor and Lucy, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well, all of them want to be world champion.
Taylor and Lucy, like they're both going after world championship. There's pretty big money on the line for both of them, both in prize money and in terms of sponsor bonuses. So like there's a lot more on the line than for the amateur athletes. Right. I mean, they want to win their age group too. Like they're super competitive. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's more on the line.
There's a lot more of I'm going to finish this among the age groupers. And we heard from, the story of the week has been Natalie Grabow. We talked to her earlier in the week. She is 80 years old and she was trying to become the first ever finisher in the 80 to 84 category for women. There was like an 80-year-old guy once. No woman has ever finished in the 80-year-old category at the Ironman World Championships. The oldest was 78. And when we talked to her earlier in the week, I mean, she's like, I thought it'd be a neat challenge.
Yeah, that was funny.
And she ended up doing it.
She did it, but she had 15 minutes to spare. We were watching her on the tracker and we were like, oh, I don't know, because she told us she was worried about the run.
Right.
And then she just kept a steady pace and she made it. But yeah, for context too, for the clip we're about to watch, Sister Madonna Booter, I think she refers to her a couple times as Madonna.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Sister Madonna Booter was a famous athlete in our sport. She was an ex-nun who stayed in the sport and aged in the sport, raced here most years in Kona. And she was the previous attempt. I think she until recently held the record for the 75 to 79 age group, and then she was the only 80 something year old to
an Ironman
to ever finish an Ironman, and she never finished here. So anyway, Natalie was the hero of the day. Let's hear from her.
All right, so if you finish, you will be the oldest woman to have ever finished, but there are women in the 80 to 84 who have tried before. Do you think you have figured out like what you need to do differently?
No. I don't know what they did, so I'm just going to, I don't know what their Madonna's strengths were, so I'll just go with what I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, you did do like a 1550 in Maryland to qualify, so you have a little bit of space.
Fast course. Oh, okay. That's a very fast course. It's all flat. Yeah. Oh, so. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice fast course. That's why I picked it.
Okay, all right. But you've been here a lot of times, so you know what you're doing here. What are you like most nervous about? What do you feel confident about?
I'm most nervous probably about the run. Yeah. It's a long run, and so it's a long time out there. So yeah, I think I'll be fine on the swim, and I think it's the run.
Okay. And we were just looking. You didn't even start triathlon until like 20 years ago or so, right? How did you get started in triathlon? What made you pick that up?
Well, I was getting injured as a runner, so I was running. Of course, we didn't have sports as young women, so I started running, and I got injured a lot. So my friends were all doing triathlons. I was kind of embarrassed. I had never learned to swim. So I thought, okay, I'll get a book and try to learn how to swim. So I did. I mean, I wasn't very good, and it's still not my strength for sure. But I learned to swim at 59, and I did my first race at 60, a couple sprints, and ended the year in Timberman 70.3 and won my age group and all. And then the next year, I came in second in Eagleman, which was a Kona qualifier at that time. And the woman, my friend Marge, who was first, already had the slot. So I took the Kona slot my second year and came here in 2006 for my first time. Okay. So,
how does one learn to swim from a book?
Well, it is called, it was a very popular method of learning to swim as an adult. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's just a body position. And then I just would watch people at my Y, and they would help me. And I wasn't very good. Took me a long time to get one length of the pool. Okay. So it was a long process. Yeah, I've never learned to blow bubbles or, do any of the breathing or anything. So, yeah. So it was brand new.
But you learned at 59, got started, and now you've been doing it for 20 years.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What has kept you going? Why have you wanted to keep going year after year?
I love the training. I don't always handle the races well because I get very nervous, but I love the training. So I'll train forever, I'm sure, because I like to move and I like the feeling of strength mentally and physically that do in the sport. And I like the three disciplines because it gives you a break from one doing the other, and so if you get sore in one area, you can usually do another thing. So
what made you decide to come back this year to Kona then?
I wasn't going to. I wanted to do Maryland because really nobody has finished an Ironman at 79 other than Madonna, who finished Ironman Canada at 82. So I thought it would be a neat challenge just to finish an Ironman at 79. So I did that. And, you get so excited after finishing a race. And the next day at awards, my friends were saying, oh, you got to take the slot. You got to take the slot. And my coach was saying, well, you should take the slot. So I took the slot. Right. So that's what I did.
I don't think Natalie realized like how viral she was going to go.
I think our post of her finishing is what, at over 6 million views now. Definitely a huge part of the internet has seen her. She stumbled in the finishing chute. She got back up. She ran through. She was greeted by Cherie Grunfeld, who is a longtime like age grouper here.
She had Kona. The previous record.
She had the previous record of the oldest finisher here. She was also inducted into the Ironman Hall of Fame this week. So she was here. She was there to greet Natalie. And I don't think Natalie quite understood that she was basically inspiring the entire
Part of me thought it was like I talked to her after the award ceremony or at the award ceremony yesterday, and I was like, oh, I was going to text you, congratulations, but I figured you were busy. And she was like, yeah, I think people just liked my little fall. Part of me was like, it's probably good you're not on Instagram, because I think it would have just been a lot.
Like, having met her before, and she was kind of, oh, I'm not used to being interviewed.
Right.
And now I'm like, she's going to be getting a call from like every morning show. Everyone's going to want to talk to her.
It is a lot of like when we talk to Cherie too, a lot of the women who are like 80 or 78 or even in their 60s, I think they're just kind of like, well, I wanted to do this. So I did it. I got a book on swimming. I learned how to swim. That's what Natalie did. I got a book on swimming when I was 48. I taught myself how to swim.
Swim smooth.
Yeah.
That was the book.
Yeah. But I was like, a book? You didn't watch a video, but they didn't have YouTube then. And they're just kind of like, I thought I'd try. And I don't think they realize like how crazy it is until they're just like, oh, I mean,
this is something I wanted to do. So
right.
I did it.
I mean, we talked to Julie Moss a ton too, right? I don't think like she didn't realize. She was just like, I wanted to do this. Sounded like fun.
Yeah. And Julie Moss is the one who basically made Ironman famous.
Right.
She collapsed with like within a mile of the finish line in 1982 on the, what was it called? Wide World of Sports?
Right. ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Yeah. And the world saw this 22-year-old college student collapsing. She was leading the race. She collapsed. Again, we haven't seen collapses in
a while.
80s.
I know. Yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting mentality.
It is. You know, I've with a lot of women who have been the first to do something, I have definitely seen that as a pattern where they're not necessarily fully embracing like the level of inspiration that they're providing for other women. Like they're not thinking this is an incredible thing I'm doing. No one else has been able to do it. They're just like, I felt like it. So I trained for it and I tried and I did it.
And you're like, great.
There's something to be said about that.
Great.
Yeah.
So, all right. Other than Natalie, Sarah, who was your feisty pick of the week?
Oh, I'm picking Solveig. Yeah, because honestly, having talked to her, she had such a good attitude before the race. She was so full of joy. She was such a great champion. Her speech at the awards banquet last night.
I was worried no one had told her that she needed to give a speech until afterwards.
A little bit. She did say at the beginning, if someone had told her she had to do a speech when she was winning, she might have thought
slow down 36 seconds. Yeah.
But no, like she's such a humble champion. Yeah. She's so good for our sport. I love an unexpected champion. You know, we all kind of can get behind that. So yeah, Solveig Loveseth is my pick.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna go wildly in a different direction. Great. Did you know J-Lo ran a 4:49 mile in high school?
What?
Yeah, she was legit. So she was on a podcast last week and was like, no, I was legit. I was a real runner.
4:49 is like legit.
And so people were like, oh, sure. And they like looked it up.
In high school too.
Not 4. Yeah. For a second I was like, no. Yeah.
It's fast.
I know. And then people like dug up photos of her racing at like the Armory or whatever. Anyway, who knew?
I certainly did not. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up.
All right. Next week, we will be back to the wide world of sports, not just triathlon.
Yes.
And don't forget to tune in to Red Bull Rampage this weekend. Last week, when we talked to one of the riders, I think I might have got my dates wrong. Anyway, it is tomorrow. You should watch it. It's going to be crazy. And then we'll be back next week.